Hello and welcome to the show. This week's FailRace versus the community. We were to go racing with B-class heavyweights. So all of these cars here weigh over £4,000. Our first race was at the Brands Hatch GP circuit, and turn one was remarkably clean. I don't think we saw any cars end up out in the gravel trap. A little bit more bumping as we come through this second corner. Plenty of vehicles were 3 and 4 wide, and a Maserati using a little bit more of the road to try and stay in control. The Audi that the camera is following at the moment made the most of the odd little incident to pick his way up into third place, finding a way past a Wraith and a Mustang as they were fighting one another. Certainly if you could get the good start, get the opportunistic overtakes, you could make it through the field quite quickly. Now, I've gone for a Subaru SVX. These races were done just about an hour after the DLC pack came out, so this was a little bit of a rushed build on the Subaru. I wanted to use the car because it was something different. I would probably have been better off going with the Firebird that I had built initially for this race. It was a decent enough car, but had a huge amount of understeer. It was a little bit difficult to get this car up to the £4,000. You had to put on all the roll cage, intercooler, supercharger and so on, just to make sure that it made the weight. Of course, you were kind of restricted almost as to what parts I could put on, because I had to make sure it got up to the weight. So yeah, it wasn't the easiest of cars I've had to drive, but it was doing okay. I'd made it up into fourth. The Javelin was following me though. The Javelin making a good move to get past the Mustang behind. Yeah, the Subaru wasn't completely awful, but had to deal with a lot of understeer. And speaking of a new DLC car, it was inevitable that we were going to see an Aztec of some sort turn up to a race. This one in particular had an awful lot of straight line speed, a stupendous amount of straight line speed as we come down this back straight. It breezes past a Rolls Royce and then proceeds to breeze past a Cadillac as well, despite having to have a lift to fall back into line behind the Cadillac. The score got a little bit boxed in. Straight line speed was immense, and I know that is a very strange thing to say about an Aztec, but there you go. You absolutely breezed past everything in a straight line. Had some issues when it came to the corners. You can see the Cadillac catches up so much through the turns. The problem is, every time it gets to even a short straight, and even when it runs wide, the Aztec has got such a huge amount of straight line speed that it was quite a difficult car to overtake. Further towards the front of the field, and there were some more normal vehicles that were racing, mixtures of Audis and BMWs and so on. And for a while the field kind of stayed like this, with these sort of long trains of cars where you couldn't really afford to make a mistake. The Maserati up ahead was just a little bit slow through a corner, and immediately you're going to be coming under pressure as the Audi has a look, thinks about going around the outside, changes his mind, can't quite do that, cuts back to the inside for the run down the hill and keeps his car there alongside all the way up. Maserati tries his best and almost manages to keep an overlap, can't quite do it, and the Audi would move up the position. You can sometimes hold it around the outside there. It's a difficult corner though, certainly, to make things stick there. The Aztec was coming under pressure now from a Holden. These Holdens were really very, very fast cars around the course lap. Probably the vehicle to have, in all honesty, for this particular kind of category of car. But this one was having a tough time finding a way past the Aztec because of the Aztec's stupidly high straight line speed and its good acceleration. If he could defend through the corners without making any mistakes, the Holden was, having issues, because as soon as they got out of a corner, that acceleration from the Aztec just pulled it so far away from the HSV that it couldn't quite pounce. And when the when the Aztec made a little mistake, the HSV also made a mistake. Both of them going sideways allowed the car behind to catch up. One Holden's around the outside, one Holden gets a little bit stuck on the curb on the inside and slows himself down and falls back from this group. But again, they got out of the corner, and despite the Holden from being around the outside, the Aztec had so much speed could pull away. Makes a fatal mistake though, running wide into the final turn. The Holden would take that as an easy opportunity to get up the inside. The Aztec's got all of that straight line speed coming down the start-finish line, but he can't quite get far enough ahead, so the Holden can dive up the inside down turn one with a little nudge from a two-wheeled car. Never good when you clip the inside curb at turn one. They're very easy to fire the car across the track there. The Holden would get the position, but was immediately once again coming under attack from the Pontiac, and you've got to be careful when you've got such a fast car behind you with all of that straight line speed. There doesn't Holdens just simply out-drag you and dive up the inside in towards the next corner. It's very easy to do with something like the Aztec here, with so much more straight-line speed than just about everything, and really slow down a car that is significantly faster than you. But if you defend cleverly, you can really make a nuisance. For now, the Holden would hold the position, the Aztec would find a way back past later on. These guys were having their own little battle. Midfield was relatively interesting in this race. This particular Maserati was having a few troubles with cars overtaking him. Said cars, though, were having trouble staying on the road. These are not the easiest of cars to drive, as the Audi manages to outbrake himself into the next corner. Yeah, these are not the easiest of racing vehicles. You know, they can be a little dodgy under braking. They can be not particularly good through the turns and so on, and yeah, there were a few people struggling as the Maserati makes up 2 positions in 2 corners with cars having trouble staying on the road. As I said, the Holdens were very, very fast. This HSV got to the lead and vanished from the rest of us, about 2 seconds a lap quicker than the rest of the field. Was, yeah, pretty much the car that you wanted to have. Made a mistake early on, but would get back through the fields, and yeah, in the end, claim a relatively simple victory. The HSVs were very, very good cars, if you didn't get stuck behind an Aztec, that is, in which case then you were in a little bit more trouble. Race number 2 would go to the Watkins Glen circuit, a track that I wasn't really that much looking forward to with the Subaru. Got a very good start though, fantastic acceleration of course, with the car being 4-wheel drive. Got me up alongside a Chrysler 300C as we all plough into the first corner. A few cars got a little bit tangled up on the outside of that turn 1. I tried to go around the outside of a Firebird through the S's. It's a slightly scary prospect. Fortunately for me, the Firebird was having as much cornering troubles as my Subaru, so we kind of evened things out and we made it through there okay. A very quick Holden though was right behind us as we run down towards the bus stop. The Firebird very, very fast in a straight line, challenging the Wagoneer up ahead. Couldn't quite get a move done, and in doing so slowed himself down. That allows me to get past the Firebird. Holden's coming. The Escalade ran a little bit wide through the chicane, and somehow I managed to find myself up into second place with the Holden coming with me. Both of us struggling with understeer. Of course, you know, there's a good chance this is the first time that people have driven these cars on this track, and I was not quite expecting the huge amount of understeer I had around there. Both me and the Holden far faster than the Jeep in a straight line. It's 3 wide around the second to last corner, with me being very scared in the middle of all of that. Not a fun place to be. Decide I don't want to be there for the final quarter, so let them two go, do the cutback, get to the inside. The Holden holds it all the way around the outside. Great overtake from the Holden. I have the acceleration to breathe past the Wagoneer on the inside as we come down towards turn 1. It's again 3 wide behind us. I have a go up the inside of the Holden, but can't quite get a particular manoeuvre done there, as again few cars running a tad wide as the Country Squire gets into all sorts of trouble, and yeah, managed to get my way up into second place. Sadly wouldn't last too long. Silly mistake. Would see me broken and have to take a trip through the pit lane. Further back, and there was a Vandura that was getting mullered by just about everything on the track. Vandura perhaps not the greatest choice of car for this particular circuit. First getting passed by a CTSV. This Jaguar was then looking for a way past as we come up the S's. The van just doesn't quite have the, see how much it's leaning through the corner, does not quite have the grip, brushes the wall, and in the end a relatively straightforward pass for the Jaguar at one of the scariest parts on the racetrack there. Yeah, the vans not having the straight line speed around here could be quite a problem, really. Well, yes, you do still need decent cornering. There are some fast turns for these cars to worry about. Straight line speed is equally very important. This Chevelle was finding out with a slow run onto this kind of final straight bit would allow both the Javelin and the Firebird to get back past, and the Chevrolet was under all sorts of attack as the CTSV was now lining up. The Javelin was recovering from running wide as they go 3 wide again around the final turn. Cadillac getting himself to the inside on the run down towards turn 1. The Javelin, some decent straight line speed in that car, would get him out of this little fight briefly as the CTSV is on the inside. Chevelle still stuck trying to go around the outside, doesn't quite have the grip. Now the Jaguar is coming to join in all of the fun as they run up towards the S's. Scary, scary part of the track, this one, and the Chevelle runs across the curb. Very, very dangerous thing to do as he tags the back of the Jag. Jag gets hugely sideways, does a really good job of managing to save that. Chevelle loses a place to the Wagoneer, and then as a Chevrolet SS comes flying past. Yeah, brushing the curbs on the way up the S's can cause no end of problems. They all did very well to save that one, but yeah, it just kind of bounces the car back out, and if there's vehicles around you, easy to end up in trouble. As I said, I made a silly mistake. I braked myself, hit a wall, had to go through the pit lane. I wasn't the only one, though, to have suffered damage on the opening lap, and 3 of us ended up having taken trips through the pit lane for various reasons, all racing against one another. However, we were a lap down, and we were faster than some of the cars that were on the lead lap, so it was a kind of we were having our own little race, trying not to affect the other cars too much, but still trying to kind of make up time. Me, the other Subaru SVX, and the Mercedes are the cars that were a lap down that were battling one another, while the rest of them were battling each other as well. It was a little bit strange. We kind of just, raced on, tried not to bump into anybody as you would normally. It was kind of good fun, though. Despite having got ourselves into trouble and found ourselves a lap down, we were having quite a good race as I tried to go around the outside of the other Subaru. Was not expecting this manoeuvre to work. I thought there'd be far too much understeer in my car, but he had just as many problems as I did. So I could hold it all the way around the outside there. It puts me on the inside for the run towards the next corner, which is, where you really want to be. Overtaking is not the easiest thing to do, though, around Watkins Glen, because the corners are so fast. There's not a huge amount of braking zone for any of them. So, yeah, trying to get overtakes done can be a little bit on the tricky side. I did make the move stick, though. The blue Subaru couldn't quite carry the momentum around the outside, so I would move up a position, although I did find myself having to go very defensive down towards the first corner. So, yeah, we were having a bit of fun, despite having had a slightly disastrous race at the front, and it was the Chrysler 300C that would go on to take the victory. Both me and the Holden had troubles, which had caused us to pit, giving a relatively easy lead to the Chrysler. Yeah, it was a decent car, made no silly mistakes, and was a long way ahead of the rest of the field, and they were all busy fighting for positions and so on. Meant yeah, the Chrysler had a relatively straightforward run to victory, but yeah, very important not to make any silly mistakes around this track. Other close finishes going on were further back, with this CTSV trying to make up places on the final lap, finding a way around the Firebird. The Firebird very nearly ran out of fuel, which in a 10-minute race is quite impressive to have drunk that much fuel. The CTSV got to the inside of the Wagoneer around that final corner. The Jeep, really struggling with that straight line speed, would have no answer for the Cadillac, as it would make up a couple of positions in the final couple of corners. On to our third and final race, saw us going to the Nurburgring GP circuit in the rather soggy conditions. I'd hoped the Subaru would fare a little bit better around this circuit as we ran down towards turn 1. Unfortunately, a little bit of a concertina effect at the hairpin. Would be a few bumps. A couple of cars would unfortunately get turned around. It's yeah, quite a nasty corner with so many large, heavy cars all piling down towards it. Having started from the very back of the grid, my Subaru had fared quite well at the start of this. It was filling me with some confidence as I battled with a Dodge. Got myself on too tighter a line through this next corner. The Charger has some good acceleration and would hold it around the outside as he would get caught out by just how slow the BMW head was accelerating. The Charger goes to the outside but doesn't really quite have the grip to make that maneuver work, which puts me up alongside. The BMW gets a little bit of a breather through the next turn. I am on the outside of the Dodge, but there are a lot of puddles down that inside. It's not a very fun place to be, and sure enough, I can get past the muscle car, and with a lot of acceleration on the BMW, I can almost get the move done before we ever reach the hairpin. There are some nasty puddles on the outside there. It's quite a tricky manoeuvre to do going around the outside of the hairpin, especially in the wet with the horrible puddles. You saw the Charger have issues, go spearing off. In the end, it didn't really matter that I couldn't get the pass done. The acceleration out of the hairpin was more than enough to see me passed by the time we got to the very, very fast uphill chicane section. So yeah, you don't want to be going too wide through that uphill chicane. It's a tough place for going too wide, but got the move done. Unfortunately, one small shunt would lead to a huge crash that saw a huge number of cars broken, so the field very, very quickly got very spread out. This was now the battle for second place between a BMW, a Holden, and another BMW. You can see the battle scars on some of the cars that had survived the incidents a little bit better than others. Unfortunately, in conditions like these with cars that are a little bit difficult to drive, it's something that can happen. It only takes a little thing to affect one car to cause a rather large problem. This X5 was one of the vehicles heavily affected by the shunt, dropped all the way down to the back of the field. However, it was very, very fast, and there was nothing that any of us could really do about it. The Holdens had proved to be probably one of the best vehicles. Certainly for the dry conditions, the Holdens had been some of the best vehicles, easily fastest at Brands Hatch. There was an incredibly fast one at Watkins Glen. Had he not had an accident, probably would have easily won. However, come to Nurburgring, and there was nothing, or a wet Nurburgring, and there was nothing that Holden could do against the X5. The X5 having a look at finding a way past the Jag. A little bit of a tough manoeuvre to get up the inside through that fast corner. Much better to wait, go for an outbreak into the chicane, and sure enough, the X5 gets past cleanly. I had a rather poorly Subaru, was trying to find a way past, and Aztec up ahead, it was my turn to struggle to get past a Pontiac. Even if my car had been in full working order, I doubt there is anything I could have done to stop the charge of this X5 as he gets traction and promptly breezes past my Subaru down the straight. I moved over to try and defend, or get ready to defend into turn 1. It was pointless. It was so far gone by the time we got down to turn 1, and sure enough, got past the Aztec as well. Pontiac tried to go around the outside, outbraked himself, ran wide. I thought it was my invitation to try and get past Pontiac. I wasn't quite close enough to profit at that particular moment, but yeah, the BMW was on a march. This group were currently fighting over, I think, third place at the time for the M5 at the front. This Wagoneer and Mercedes going side by side. The Jeep stuck on the outside. The Jeep's, though, faring better at this circuit with, again, it's that four-wheel drive traction was really helping them. Still struggled a little bit for a lack of straight-line speed, but could make up for some of it by being very quick off of the corners as we run down the back straight. You can see the Mercedes up ahead and the BMW leading this group. We're just pulling away that little bit from the Wagoneer, so there's nothing you could really do in the braking zone. But behind them was the looming X5. You could see how quickly it caught up to this group. They weren't even battling massively quite yet. The X5 was right there up towards the final corner, and the Jeep used that great acceleration out of the chicane to get alongside the Mercedes and would get the pass done as they left the final corner, as the X5 caught up and would breeze past the pair of them with its superior straight line speed. Certainly breezed past the Jeep. Mercedes would get back past the Jeep as well, while the X5 gets himself to the inside for the first corner. The Wagoneer keen to follow the Jeep on his way past the Mercedes. Couldn't quite get it done. Mercedes fended off a little bit better through turn 1, but he didn't really have an answer to the X5 either. The Merc getting a very, very big slide on that would give the Wagoneer an opportunity to at least try and get a pass done again. The Jeep to the inside. The Mercedes forced to take the very, very tight line with the Jeep carrying much more momentum around the outside. The Jeep would get the pass done on the Mercedes, while the X5 would pass the M5 in rather straightforward fashion. Yeah, there was no one had an answer for that X5. Leading the way was a Rolls-Royce Wraith that was a surprise to see this car up at the front, but it only took a lap or so for the X5 to be right there behind him. And the Wraith, while it was holding his own to an extent, just had no answer for the grip on the X5, sliding his way through the chicanes. The Jeep could simply drive around the outside of him. I mean, that is not a nice place to overtake in the dry, let alone in the wet there, especially when you've got a slidey Rolls-Royce on the inside of you. But, yeah, the X5 was far too fast for the rest of us, and sure enough, it's hardly a surprise what car would go on to take victory, having overtaken just about everybody in a matter of 4 laps. It was a very, very impressive charge from the X5. Far too quick for the rest of us to deal with, really. It was the Rolls-Royce, though, that would go on to take second place, which was a great drive from the Wraith, and a Jeep Wagoneer, I believe, would come home in third. A little bit of a shame, though, this race, that yeah, quite a few cars would end up broken on the early stages. It's just one of those things, unfortunately, that can happen with online racing. Anyway, that is it for this week's video. The next versus the community shall be held on Thursday, the 4th of February. We're going to go racing with C-Class Renault Clios. Can be any generation of Clio. If you would like to sign up and take part in that, then you can go to our forums. There'll be a link in the description. Find the FailRace versus the community section, and you can sign up in there. But that is it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.